Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, where we explore the world of ADR, the stories behind it, and the people who truly make it move. If you've been enjoying these conversations, please take a moment to leave us a comment because your input really helps us grow. And if you know someone who is curious about arbitration, mediation, or the people who make it possible, please share this episode with them so that we keep the conversation going. A brief introduction from my side. My name is Katlego Bridgette Tlhokwane. I am a fifth-year law student from Botswana, currently studying in India. And I'm an intern at the Institute for Alternative Dispute Resolution in New Delhi, India. Now I'll give a brief introduction of ME-Arcone Queing podcast. This podcast is an initiative that has been made possible by the Institute for Alternative Dispute Resolution here in New Delhi. This podcast helps us explore how conflicts can be resolved smarter through mediation, arbitration, conciliation, and other people-centered approaches that save time, reduce cost, and preserve relationships. This season, we are zooming out and crossing borders. Season 12 focuses on Indo-African perspectives on ADR, creating a space where professionals from India and Africa share their lived experiences and lessons from their unique legal landscapes. Together, we'll explore how different cultures approach conflict and what we can learn from one another to shape the future of dispute resolution globally. Now, today's episode is a special one. We have with us today Miss Mispa Fri Awasum. Am I saying that correctly, ma'am? Okay, thank you.
You did. You did.
Perfect. Ms. Mispa is a dynamic international arbitrator, mediator, researcher, and institution builder whose work sits at the intersection of arbitration, sustainable development, and global policy reform. With over a decade of experience in international trade and investment law, Ms. Mispa currently serves as the consultant manager of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in the Rwanda branch, where she leads national ADR training initiatives, policy advocacy, and youth capacity development across East Africa. 1 minute. Under her leadership, CR Rwanda has experienced remarkable institutional growth, including a 200% increase in membership and the founding of Rwanda Young Members Group. Her experience spans tribunal secretary roles in international commercial and investment arbitrations involving mineral rights, construction disputes, and cross-border investment claims. She has contributed to drafting procedural orders and interim awards, supported complex case management, and engaged in deeply harmonizing global arbitration systems. Beyond institutional leadership, Ms. Mispa is the founder of Awasum Global Consulting Group and Institution, through which she has mentored over 500 mediators and arbitrators across Africa. Her academic journey, currently pursuing a PhD in international trade and investment law, reflects her commitment to research-driven, policy-informed dispute resolution. A member of CR, Young ICCA, ICCYAAF, Africa AA, and country representative for African Women in Arbitration, Rwanda. Her work reflects a powerful blend of global engagement and African institutional development. Her voice represents not only expertise in arbitration, but a broader vision for ethical, sustainable, and internationally harmonized dispute resolution systems. But before we get on the technical side of ADR, ma'am, I would like to get to know you a bit more. Mrs. Mispa, for the listeners who may be discovering you for the first time, can you please tell us who you are beyond your LinkedIn profile, where you are from, and what is your origin story?
Thank you very much once more, Bridget. I also want to really appreciate the Institute for Dispute Resolution in India for platform for young people to grow.
Exactly.
And it's a privilege, and I'm very humbled by this opportunity to be your guest at this podcast of today.
Thank you so much.
So I am a Cameroonian by nationality, a very proud Pan-African woman, dressed today in one of our traditional regalias in Cameroon. Cameroon is a country in the West Central Africa, a very unique country in the African continent with over 300 tribes and 300 languages and 300 cultures. So today, just to represent my African miniature. So India is not new to me. I have in the past 2 years been a mediator, a judge on the Delhi University mediation or negotiation competitions. It has been a very memorable one for me because sometimes when we look at the time difference with India and Kigali, we have a wide difference. So in Kigali, it might be 2, 3 a.m. while people are sleeping. I am up judging mediations or negotiations for the candidates. So it has always been a very big sacrifice. I extend my warm wishes and gratitude to the Institute. And maybe this is an opportunity for a collaboration. Looking forward to join the Institute and contribute to its impact.
Indeed.
So I am a mother and a wife of 4 biological kids and many other adopted children because I love children. I am also a golfer. I do play golf. I'm very much more sensitive, enthusiastic, with sports that deals with balls because it helps me a lot in my creativity and innovation focus, which is something I do a lot. I also play snooker, the pool balls. So you see, I'm around balls and balls and balls. Yeah. So anything dealing with balls, I love it a lot. And I'm also a lover of swimming. I'm a swimmer. I love swimming, though not a professional swimmer of that, yes. But I'm still building that skills because swimming to me is therapy. Playing golf to me is therapy, aside networking at the golf course or club, but it's therapy for me. So sometimes I cover the Kigali golf course, which is about 10.2.
Oh, wow.
5 kilometers. So walking around the golf course and covering 18 paths, sometimes I must have reflected on a lot of things. I must have experienced a mindset shift. So a lot of things will just go on at the same time. Considering the task we do and the impact we create in the continent and globally. So these are some little tips about me that maybe some people don't know. But if you happen to watch this podcast, you'll be opportune to know about this.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. If there is anything you want me to share that is shareable on this podcast, please feel free to do.
Definitely.
Thank you.
We share the same interest. I'm also very interested in swimming. I've always loved it growing up. Although now I don't do it as much as I used to, but it's something I truly love. So that's beautiful.
Oh, and then let me share something that I've never shared before in my career.
Okay.
Yeah, I had once, in 2005, I had been a miss of my community. That is, I hail from the Ngembo village in Momo division. I had once been a miss.
Wow,
and
pageantry as well.
Yeah, exactly. And one old time friend and community member sparked this to me and do you know you had once been a miss? And I see that strong personality is still with you. And I laughed, and sometimes I even forgot I had once been a miss. I won the competition, but now over years one has put on the size. That sexy me back then is no longer there. But something again about my nutrition and welfare.
Yes.
I am a lover of vegetables and fruits. I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and I think that's what keeps me younger every time.
I think I'll learn from that. I think as the youth, we still take an advantage of still being young. So I still also need to get my health right. But thank you so much for the beautiful introduction, and I'm happy to know you a bit more outside of your LinkedIn profile. Have you always known you wanted to be a lawyer?
Thank you very much. Please do not hesitate to let me know. Do not hesitate to let me know when it breaks, because I don't know if you experience some breaks.
Yes, I'm experiencing a few breaks.
Do you experience any break?
I'm experiencing a few breaks in between.
Yeah, and this is not good for the actually good for the podcast.
I think
we need to fix this, because I did last year, December. We did a podcast as well for the climate bill. The podcast could not be shared during the summit because there were these breaks.
Yeah.
And then we didn't notice it, but when they replayed the podcast, it was really unbearable. So let's ensure we don't face that. I don't know, because I'm in another venue. I'm not home, so the internet is not stable.
Yeah. I think it becomes stable for like a small second, and then after that it loses a bit.
Exactly. Can we just pause a bit?
No problem.
Let me ask the hotel for maybe another Wi-Fi assistant so that we get the best record, okay?
Thank you so much. Okay, we can continue. I wanted to know, Miss Mispa, have you always known you wanted to become a lawyer, or how did that go for you?
Let me tell you the shocking story. I had never, or even existing in the legal fraternity or legal profession, or having anything to do with the law. Once I was growing, as a kid, I'd always seen myself, I always wanted to be a technocrat somewhere, somehow.
Okay.
But what grade in, I would definitely be decision maker. I'm definitely going to influence in one way or the other. I'm definitely going to create impact, because I've always been creating impact from my very young age. It's a very tender, even among my peers. Go back to my church, go back to my family. So I've always been that person who creates impact, who think about beyond myself. I think about other people, and I think on the larger. So my background, what I did, I am a certified Cisco network administrator.
Okay.
I'm a certified Cisco network administrator, and not only when encountered a challenge, which I will not want to share here, but somebody used his power outrageously on my family in 2010, and then I decided to go to the university. I went back to school to the university to go and read law. My dad was police, and none of my siblings took that route of either police, military, or the law, to actually have that. These professions command some authority in the society. They are noble. Its nobility automatically brings some protection. Okay? And once that happened to my family unjustly, so I decided to take the lead, to go into the legal profession. I went back to the university. That's University of Yaoundé Toussoua in Cameroon. I went in 2011. I read law, and then I came back, went to the law school. Before going to law school, I went to the chambers. I've been in the chambers for 5 years, and then I went to the law school, and then this is me. So, and now in 2019, while in the law school, I heard about arbitration. I heard about alternative dispute resolution mechanism. While in the university, I never heard anything about it. And I heard about ADR while in the law school, 2019. And that was then I said, oh, there's something like this that does exist. One thing about me is I'm that person who hates injustice. And the truth is, and truth be told, I am not a very confrontational person. I believe more in agreements, arrangements, settlements, dialogue, negotiations.
Exactly.
And once I heard about ADR in 2019, I told myself, this is my path. This is my path. The courtroom can only come when there is maybe human rights cases where injustice is being done, but the courtroom is not really my path. I said, alternative dispute resolution is my path. And there I set the vision, design my strategies. And this is me today. In a very short period, I have built my brand. And thanks to God Almighty, He helped me with the resources in terms of capital resource, in terms of human resource, in terms of my own mental resource. And I've been able to build a brand that today I'm being solicited on different platforms as a thought leader in the ADR industry to teach, to talk, to guide, to orientate the younger practitioners and even some of my senior practitioners that I learn from every day. So this has been my journey with ADR since 2019. So immediately I learned and I said, this is my path. I went in for my associate. After my associate, I went into with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators immediately because I had said this is my path. So I was doing this back to back. Exactly. There was no time for looking back. I said this is my path. I started doing my research. Who are the influential people in this area, this sector, this industry? Who are the decision makers? Who are the best? I started doing that. What are the conferences? What are the laws involved? What can I bring, or how can I create impact? And I decided to rush into it. I approached it very aggressively. Okay, I used a disruptive strategy, which I can tell you, I have 2 laptops, I have 2 phones. Sometimes not intentionally, but I have registered for different webinars, different institutions, different centers, and then they all coincide might be at the same day, same time. And sometimes they might have 30 minutes difference, 1 hour difference, and sometimes most of those things are 2 hours, 1 hour, and so running at the same time. 2 computers, 2 phones are running, and sometimes I spend my 1-2 years integrating the ADR industry disruptively. Because sometimes the younger people ask me, how did I do it? And it worked for me. This is how I approach it, and it worked for me. I didn't approach it like I want to, you are breastfeeding a child. No. Or spoon feeding a child. No. I grabbed every opportunity. And I've not even arrived. I haven't even arrived. I've not even arrived. But I can say I am in my early growth stage. I am in my early growth stage because what I want to achieve, I haven't yet achieved it as in my vision, but I have already passed my pre-entry. I have passed the entry, but I am now into the early growth stage of my career in the industry. Considering the time period that I used, And, I could pick different things. Maybe sometimes it is ICC training. Maybe sometimes it is SIAP training. Maybe sometimes it is ICSID. So maybe sometimes it is an African institution. These trainings or webinars go on simultaneously, and I keep rushing after them with my internet and my devices. And at the end of the day, if I show you my ADR manuscripts, I have a pile of manuscripts because I am somebody who writes a lot. So I can write and write and write, and I'm very good in research. I can research like crazy. So R&D, that's research and development, is something I'm very good at. I'm an expert. Yeah, for that I can tell. Very good research. I started researching about people in the industry, the institutions in the industry, the laws in the industry, the rules in the industry, and what are some of the do's and the don'ts. How can I discover as a professional credibility, confidentiality. No person. I have my credibility, but now in the industry of arbitration, how do I build it? And coming from the executive sector of my country, and now I've decided to build my private practice. So how do I integrate into the cloud, allowing my executive side play on me? And something I must tell you is one of my senior mentors told me he knows my background in the executive. Said sometimes, because I always ask for objective feedback from my senior mentors. I said, please, senior, do not look at my personality. Just tell me. Because here in the industry now, I'm a baby. I am, yes, big up there in the executive, but I'm coming to the ADR industry. I am a baby. I want to learn. So give me honest review of my engagement, how I approach, how I say things. And then he told me, he said, sometimes I see you deviate your executive character, sometimes try to transmit into the ADR industry, which doesn't really match. And that was a game changer for me. It turned everything around and made me to think differently. But where it comes to institutional effectiveness or institutional functionality, because this goes with the executive skills, it goes with the executive experience, it goes with also a high level of understanding how institutions function when it comes to deal with state and so on and so forth. And that's why I'm very good at investment arbitration, because my doctorate is international trade and investment law. And so I'm very good at these things because I've done some jobs around this. I've done a lot of research around this. My master's was my first master's. I have two masters. My first master's was also on international trade and investment law. And my PhD is still in international trade and investment law. But now with specialization, my master's was general. My PhD now it's very specialized on investors' state rights. Okay, the investors and the investors' state rights and obligation. And this is me telling you that with this, I specialize myself with the ESG, okay, and the corporate social responsibility, okay, and I build a lot of strategies or mechanisms for dispute avoidance in contracts while drafting contracts for investors or investor state, and also prepare in case dispute has arisen, what mechanisms, but the best settlement mechanisms other than litigation. So that's just as I was saying, Bridgette.
Yes.
I let me bring in some examples. Okay, where I sit, I am based in Rwanda. Rwanda is a typical example of how ethical ADR mechanism has contributed in doing what? In legitimizing and building trust in the community, in the country, with investors and the outside world. Okay, look at Rwanda, for example, post-conflict justice and alternative dispute forums, such as the community-based led mediation, which today we have the court annex mediation system, has helped this structure to rebuild Rwanda. It has helped in rebuilding the institutions in Rwanda. It has helped in building institutional trust. It has helped to do what? To create that rapport between the country and its investor, country and the outside world. It has built some fame around the country's name until the country Rwanda has been incorporated. So today, Rwanda Inco, INC dot means Rwanda Incorporation, means the country now is a business name. So that fair structured dispute mechanism, which precisely mediation has real unity and prevent grievance accumulation. But contrary to my own country, Cameroon, my country has failed to use these ethical ADR mechanisms. Okay? They have failed to use it. We speak, we have an ongoing Anglophone crisis that has lasted 8 years. That has displaced over 10,000 Anglophones to the Francophone regions. That has killed over 5,000 Anglophones and our military, children, and police. This is uncalled for. This is uncalled for. If they had entered into a dialogue, into a negotiation, into a mediation process with the southern part of our Cameroon, we would have long time solved this. Indeed. And let me tell you how Kenya used these ethical mechanisms to do for escalation. Okay? It can prevent dispute from becoming violent or politicized. So Kenya is good at using this mechanism to do what? To de-escalate any conflict.
True.
Recently, saw how they have been uprising in Kenya. Recently, protests, people were killed. And I know colleagues who had to deploy these ADR mechanisms, even motivated with the state, with the Chief Justice of Kenya, her leadership. She is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She is an arbitrator. She is a dispute resolver. So she understands these things better and can also advise the state properly. So Kenya uses it a lot also in land disputes, because land dispute is at the rise in Kenya.
That's true.
So we talk about, for example, the most popular ones. Yes, the most popular, the coastal, okay? The coastal, the Rift Valley regions in Kenya have historically triggered tension all the time. But now, structured mediation processes were engaged to prevent the escalation of all these conflicts, okay? Especially during the politically sensitive periods. You see? Let's go leave Kenya and go to the southern part of Africa. In South Africa, we talk about mining. A lot of mining in South Africa. So in mining and land restitution matters, negotiation and mediation has been the key. It has been the lead mechanism. And it has enabled communities to do what to, or structures or schemes, and then the land use discussion has, it has reduced that marginalization narratives between the communities. Are you seeing? West Africa, Ghana. In Ghana, we talk about preservation of relationships. Mediation has actually helped, and it continues to help cooperation between the investors and government and communities. A lot of investment is ongoing in agriculture, land use. Okay? Cocoa, coffee in Ghana. It's the extractive sectors. So a lot of mediation has helped them in settling, and now the miners, the communities allow the mining companies to mine.
Exactly.
Because communities also, there have been some renegotiations of some contracts that do not have the ESG standards involved. So there have been some, and I have always advised and encouraged states to call for renegotiation. Maybe when we talk about state withholding licenses for extractive industries. Okay, when we withhold this operation in licenses, what happened? Dispute has arisen. Then they want to evoke the clause in the contract that we have right to this arbitration. At the end of my mediation process, we are not only looking here about compensation, but looking how we can renegotiate those contracts, the BTIs, the BIT contracts, and include the liberalization clauses, include ESG clauses, include safe environmental protection clauses into those new BITs. Okay? And then look at another very big sensitive country in Africa, Nigeria. We can't talk about West Africa without talking about Nigeria. Okay, in Nigeria, it has helped to prevent resource-driven conflict, a resource-endowed country just like Cameroon. Okay, and this has actually helped mediation, especially Nigeria just passed its act called the AMA, Arbitration and Mediation Act 3, which has captured some mechanisms and has included some provisions which were not captured in the Arbitration Act of 2004. Okay, but now the AMA 2023 captured even provisions that are found in the Singapore Convention. This process of building the AMA started since 2016, but it stopped in 2023. I was very opportune the day they were launching this AMA, presenting some of the operational clauses to the industry. I was on that webinar. Tanzania, Zambia, even Namibia, these are areas that are coming. But now I want to cite a particular country in Africa that has used this mechanism ethically in their governance, Mauritius.
Okay.
Mauritius. Okay. So independent ADR mechanisms, okay, has reinforced the legal predictability. For example, in Mauritius as a regional arbitration hub, it is known for its nature. Its standards, it's known for its competence. Okay, so that's why it is one of the hubs in Africa today as we speak. It has positioned itself as a neutral venue, strengthening investors' confidence across Africa. There is no political interference. Ethiopia is known for what? Infrastructure. So Ethiopia uses this mechanism political interference in its large infrastructure and investment projects. Look at the airport in Ethiopia, the Addis Ababa airport, large, very large, huge airport. These infrastructures, even in the cities of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, you see this investment project going on. Dispute mechanism has helped investors and the state in resolving those sensitive and reducing or mitigating tension. Today we talk countries that have used it as well. Sierra Leone. I have a colleague that participated in the drafting of the Sierra Leone Arbitration Act. They are arbitration, but they have been using mediation for their post-conflict governance reforms, which has really helped them with legal accountability and arrange their resource to avoid that repeated instability that used to occur okay. So this is how these ethical standards they have actually helped in strengthening Africa in terms of governance, institution, its prevention of dispute. So in Africa, actually, African jurisdiction, this is me saying that disputes they are not just merely commercial disagreements or misunderstanding or commercial omissions. They are actually there is that intersection. Dispute mechanisms, they have an intersection with the identity. Like I said before, it is our identity, especially mediation, especially restitutive justice, with land, intersects with governance, intersects with national stability when we are talking about. So the ethical dispute resolution, it has strengthened and also legitimizes African investment. It has reduced conflicts. Conflicts are, in as much as conflict at one point, I don't have the data, sorry about this, but at one point, conflict in Africa was at a rise. And particularly 20 before COVID, 2019, 2018, there was a lot of conflict in Africa. And COVID came the conflict, and after COVID 2023, things again arising again with the global political order transitions that are happening, and a lot is happening. But this ethical endearment still remains the best in strengthening, the best in creating social cohesion, the best in sizing all this political instability. So we cannot do without them. Thank you.
That's a beautiful answer, and you've given me a beautiful breakdown, and I believe this will be very helpful to the African community and the world at large. So I'm really happy and grateful for that answer. As consultant manager of CR Rwanda, you played a direct role in institutional expansion and youth development. What does it take to build strong, credible ADR institutions in Africa that can compete and collaborate globally? As you mentioned, Mauritius is one country in Africa that is doing beautifully when it comes to that. So what can we learn as other countries like myself in Botswana? I would like to take all this information and implement it in my country. And how can we do it? Like, enlighten me, please.
Let me take an example from my. You see, when my country started losing grip of its people, of us Cameroonians, is when it loses institutional integrity. Once there is a lack of institutional credibility, states find it difficult to catch up with its citizens. That's where rooms for corruption, bribery, embezzlement in. Institutional credibility is key. So if you have to take this to Botswana, please, it is risky and tricky, but never give up in ensuring stakeholders or promoting institutional credibility. And how this is done? Through standards and governance. Through standards and governance. And not just governance, but good governance. Through standards, before you can build institutional credibility. That's something I did at Chartered Institute of Arbitrators as branch manager. I had to try my best to put such standards to build the ability of the institute in Rwanda. Okay? And today, as we speak, when we launch our trainings at the institute in Rwanda, we have participants from Angola, we have participants from Dubai, we have participants from Nigeria, we have participants from Burundi. So you see how the governance of the governance surrounding our trainings, management of our trainings and participants has spread our tentacles. For example, this year with my days from Angola, next year it is at a consistency. There is a consistency because the candidates they will our governance style, the way we manage them, the way we govern their training, and then the standards we put around their training that we have built our institute with, they are going to refer our branch to their colleagues.
Institutional credibility.
That's how we keep having candidates from Angola, Burundi, Nigeria, Cameroon every year from Dubai. I had a candidate from South Africa, a virtual fellowship course. But we have our branch in South Africa. We have branch in all of these countries, except for Angola that we don't yet have. So CR has 45 branches around the world. But with a branch in their country there are other factors involved, but I believe and I can confidently say we have built institutional credibility at CR Rwanda branch. Our standards, and it's the one that's very accommodative. We adapt to our candidate job. We tailor our training calendar in a way that suits them. Okay. So one thing I will say here is that credibility first, visibility follows. Credibility first, visibility follows credibility. Let me tell you, even in this industry today, you got to know me because I built my credibility and you found me on LinkedIn. Okay. And if I had not built the credibility, you could still see me, but you don't consider my profile. Last Energy Law Summit in London. I spoke at the Energy Law Summit in London last year. I was invited from LinkedIn because I've built a profile with credibility. My credibility skill is high. So credibility, visibility follows credibility. Okay? This is what I tell every young practitioner. Another thing that I have done so much here, and I'm very proud about it, is capacity building, that's skill development, a youth pipeline development scheme where we have put a flagship program in Sierra Rwanda branch, which is the annual University ADR Symposium. We are very proud to have put this flagship program targeting 100 university ADRs practitioners in the university, the young arbiters. And this has been a very big success for us. And this you can also see in all arbitration institutions. For example, you have the young CIAB, which is, we call it the Young Members Group, YMG. We have under ICA, we have the Young ICA. Under ICC, we have the ICA. And I have passed through these pipelines, like professional development in the career. Okay? So there is no way you will want to really grow visibility when you pass through some of these bodies, these pipeline, youth pipeline developments. So institutions grow when the talent ecosystem grows. So myself multitasking for conferences, multitasking and certifications with ICC, with CIAP, with different institutions around the world, with the with the E Institute, which I am a member of the ESG Institute. All these talent acquisition or talent ecosystem grows, and institutions cannot be built on zero talent.
Exactly.
They can only be built system. Strategy can come later. Yes, strategy helps, and especially strategy for global or regional collaborations. It's also important. So, global relevance requires strategy.
Mrs. Mispa?
And not isolation. If you want to go global, you must integrate. You must hello?
Yes, the network is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the network is stopping a bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. It's just it comes and then it goes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
But is it okay now? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello? Okay. So I was saying another one is global integration or regional collaboration. For example, Sierra Rwanda branch, we opened a collaboration with AFA. AFA is the African Arbitration Association. Okay, it strengthens our regional voice. It strengthens our bargaining power. And I will encourage all of you, the young people listening to me today, watching this podcast, to join the African Arbitration Association. To grow, you have to belong. We also, with our other sister branches, CIAP Kenya, CIAP Nigeria, we create that collaboration. We create that collaboration so that we could sell our vote through these other regional and global platforms. Okay, CIAP generally has a very big reputation with ICC. They are very strong partners. They are not just referral level up, but they are strong partners in the industry. Okay, so we have also we are also doing our trainings now in a way that we are trade frameworks like the African Continental Free Trade Area that creates a demand and credible dispute across Africa. But a lot have not this protocol or this agreement, how to leverage or need, how these agreement demands for credible dispute resolution infrastructure across Africa as mediation, arbitration, or negotiation, because we are talking here about trade, dealing with trade and services. And there is no way people will trade, there is no way people will deliver services and the dispute will not arise. You are putting into the avoidance mechanism or the resolution mechanism, whatever be the case. So that has been the journey so far.
That's beautiful, ma'am. And I really appreciate all the work you're contributing. And as a young future practitioner myself, yes, ma'am? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I hear you.
Okay. Like I was saying,
yes, I'm hearing you.
As a young practitioner myself, I would say it is a pleasure that I even have the chance to get to hear your insights, to hear how you did it, the strategy that you are implementing, and the mindset that you have in order to expand ADR in Rwanda and Africa as a whole. So I'm really, really appreciative of that, ma'am.
Okay, let's try to speed up a little bit.
Okay, sure.
So that we can catch up with other things. Yeah.
Okay. Best, I would like to reply to the explanation you gave earlier. I really appreciate how you started, and I'm really sorry for what you faced before, but it was a double-edged sword because now it led you to where you are today, helping us, leading the future of ADR, leading the future of mediation and arbitration. And I also share the same values of you, of where I never knew I wanted to study law, but here I am today, and I believe God has placed me on this earth to make an impact, to make a very big impact, and I'm finding my way to working towards that. So I'm really happy I'll be able to connect with you and learn more from your story. So we may continue on to the questions.
That's a good one. I wish you all the best and you're going to succeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you can do it, then I can too, definitely.
You're welcome.
Ms. Mispa, you've spoken about the...
And even more better than I did I'm doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really humbled. You've spoken about the intersection between ADR, ESG, and sustainable development in Africa. In your view, how can arbitration and mediation actively contribute to sustainable economic growth and responsible investment on the continent?
Okay, Bridgette, for me to answer this, let me start by defining the key terms involved in what you just said.
Okay.
You know, people have different definitions of these terminologies. Some people don't know these terminologies. And I lecture arbitration at the law school in Rwanda. Okay. And when I ask about ESG, like half of the class did not know anything about ESG, okay? When I asked them to define alternative dispute resolution, I got all sorts of definitions, okay? And that's why there was a need for the module to be treated. Okay, so for the benefit of who has never heard about ADR, for the benefit of who have heard but doesn't know what it means, for the benefit of those who don't have the clarity about it, let me help you. Alternative dispute resolution is an acronym to the words that says ADR means alternative dispute resolution, okay? And this refers to what? They are mechanisms. They are mechanisms put in place to as litigation to primarily do what? Solve problems, disputes, conflicts between two or more parties, between companies, between businesses, between state, between an investor and the primary mechanisms we have, and we'll be talking more about, is arbitration, mediation. But if you want to look at it hierarchically, the way they appear in some of the clauses, you hear about amicable settlement, you hear about negotiation, you hear about mediation, you hear about arbitration, which similarly, I always say it's like the big brother of them all, because why? Its structure, its complexity, what it involves, okay, is different from media. And then its bindingness on party, its enforceability as well. Okay, the way it's structured, it makes it like looks be the big brother of all the other mechanisms. And something I will tell you, Bridget, is that dispute resolution mechanism is embedded in our African cultures. Okay, you know, parents back then, when there are disputes in communities or between children, they used to sit down in a family circle, tell some folklore stories, folk tales, and then they resolve this dispute. That was mediation, but names were not given to it, but that was mediation. Okay. And we also had something in our African culture called the restitutive justice, where you have to pay for committing a crime, or you have to restore, give back, let the person get back to the position initially, which if that act or omission were not committed, he or she wouldn't have been where it is that has led to a dispute. So these are mechanisms that had existed in our African culture for several years. But today we have modernized them, and then we are we are amplifying them to give it a larger scale and understanding in the business world.
Exactly.
Okay? So this is ADR, alternative dispute resolution for you. Okay? And mediation, let me add arbitration. Like amicable settlement might be parties had their dispute and then they just resolved, sat down, and then they agreed on some terms among themselves. Okay. It's similarly just like negotiation, where the parties resolve, but sometimes negotiation is aided by a legal counsel who aids parties to negotiate between themselves. Or sometimes it is self-driven by the parties themselves to negotiate, which can be amicable. And then mediation comes now, which has a little bit a complex structure because party neutral. Okay, there is the intervention of a third party neutral that does what? That help the parties or facilitate the parties or guide the parties in reaching a settlement agreement. And why you see mediation different from arbitration is that it sometimes is not binding unless parties have agreed on it to be a binding instrument. They register, they enforce it in the courts. Okay. And so with arbitration also is the involvement also of a third party or third parties. Okay, that they don't help, they don't guide, they don't evaluate, they don't facilitate. They actually do what? Come up with a binding decision on the parties. And that third neutral party or 10 neutral parties are called arbitrators or an arbitrator. An arbitrator, when it comes to ad hoc arbitrators, might be for institutional or for panel arbitrations. Okay. So these are the typical difference. And the truth is that ADR is faster. It's typically faster. It's confidential, it's flexible, and its international character of enforceability makes it sweeter and suitable for business. Okay. And these are some of the beauty features that surrounds ADR that charms me more, because it takes me to my position of a more negotiable person, of a more discussional person, a more dialogue, someone who likes to see people settle, okay, and not too confrontational there. So on the other hand, ESG, like the word ESG, the E stands for environment, the S stands for social, and the G stands for governance. This is not a very new concept or new thing, but it is a bit new in the market as a subject to be treated under dispute resolution. Okay, and this ESG refers to what? That non-financial standards. These are standards. Okay, these are standards used to do what? To evaluate how responsibly and sustainably your business can be.
Okay.
How responsible are your operations? So that's why they are standards. They use them to evaluate how responsible are your investments, how responsible are your operations in the economy, in the society, on the environment, on the persons in the environment. Okay? And that's why you see it's a global subject, because it cuts across the majority of businesses, majority of investment, especially when it comes to natural resource, energy, whether it's mining, oil and gas, you can name the rest. That's where ESG stands. Okay. And now let me go further. Like I said, for first time intervention, people who are hearing this for the first time. The environment, social, and governance standards here, they refer to those non-financial standards that are used to evaluate, okay, how your business operates. And for example, environmental, when we talk here, we are talking about what? Climate impact. Climate impact, the resources that are being used, the suitability. We can use resources, but are they suitable to the environment? Are they suitable for the climate with globalization? Are they suitable? Okay. For example, let's say in the aviation industry, there are different types of fuel that planes do use. Is that or that exists, but not all fuel are suitable for aviation, because as they aviate, as they move in the sky, they do pollute. They release these gases, this fuel gas in the air, and so, but there are some mitigations that the aviation industry use. They pollute and pay. The polluters pay policy, and there is the carbon credits that they pay. If you check a flight ticket that you buy, some people have never noticed. You check a flight ticket, you see that you pay taxes for that. As you contribute in that pollution, that craft that you have bought, you also help in paying for those carbons that are released. Okay, so this is me telling you that environment means the climate impact, the resources that are involved, and then the suitability, okay, or the sustainability. For social here is we talk about what we talk about social community impact, labor standards, okay, human rights. What are those rights that are involved? How do you measure them? Because remember, they are no. And then the last one is governance. The last one is governance, the G, which is governance, okay? And now, the governance here, we are talking about transparency, accountability, and ethical leaderships. Transparency, accountability, and ethical leaderships. Investors, business people, we use these non-financial standards, okay? How states do use or ensure the accountability or enforcement that the standards involve investors or business people at sustainability. And then sustainable development, which is the last terminology in this discussion. Sustainable development here, where we can say it means three things. For me, I always say sustainable development means three things to me. The first one, it means economic growth needs. We cannot say we are sustainable when our economic growth does not meet our present needs. Okay? The next one is economic growth that does not compromise future generation. Sustainable. Economic operations or economic growth that does not compromise future generations. If we have to do mining, let's not mine the soil until our children don't have soils to live on tomorrow. Let's not drill until the water. The waters become so polluted until our local mothers in the rural areas don't even have water, potable water to use, either to shower. We know the local activities that they use, even the sea, water flowing from the sea, the rivers, to do in their daily life, at the micro levels of the communities. We have to ensure there is a sustainability. And the last one to me, that economic growth that creates what? A balance, or balances economic, environmental, and social priorities. So for me, I'm talking here about meeting the needs, our needs, all of us, you and I, whether stakeholders, whether governments, presidents, or whosoever. There's no class. Economic growth that does not compromise the future generation. When we leave, our next generation will still have this thing to dwell with. For me, economic growth that does what? Balancing the economy, the environment, and social priorities. I am a lover of nature. I always want to see the trees very green, fresh. I always want to see the environment clean. I want to see the waters very pure, clean, that I can swim in. Even if I drink a bit of water, it's not going to harm me. It's not going to destroy me. So this is what we are talking about in Africa. There are a lot of cancerous diseases and cases in Africa today. We don't know where these are coming from. Our mothers were not going through this. They were not. But today, with the way we manage our lands without respecting standards, without thinking about sustainability, without thinking whether it meets the needs of today, we are compromising the economy, the environment, and even our social priorities in a way that it even affects our health, either from agriculture, productivity, even in terms of personal health or personal care, personal hygiene, the environment itself. Today, you hear people being contaminated with things they say it's as a result of environmental bacteria, environmental pollution. Where are we and where are we going to? So, this is me just defining these terms to you. So, where do they intersect? Where does these three things intersect? ADR and ESG. There is no way they will be on the mass with that intersection. Because investors funding renewable energy, whether infrastructure, whether mining, whether climate projects, require neutral dispute mechanisms. Neutral dispute mechanisms for litigation. Because look, there are things here involved. The environment is involved. The communities are involved. Social people are involved. And then governance are involved. I remember prior to this conversation, we have spoken about the governance which talks about transparency, accountability, and the sustainability. Okay? So now ESG is a compliance mechanism or standard. Okay? Let's look at it, the risk involved, and how can we mitigate it in investment. Okay? How can we mitigate? That's very key. Next one we look about, and we talk about ESG compliance enforcement. Okay, arbitration and mediation are just the best. They're just the best compliance mechanisms or enforcement mechanisms for ESG compliance. Okay, when they are drafting these contracts, it starts from the contracts. Okay, now we need the skills of the lawyers or the in-house counsel drafting these contracts to ensure that they take into consideration ESG compliance enforcement mechanism, which can either be arbitration or mediation. Okay, to do what? To safeguard environmental damage claims, to look at those environmental damage claims, to look at community disputes when they arise, and to look at governance breaches, because even these companies or investors, they breach these governance, might be some public policy issues of state dispute resolution, and integrate the ESG clauses into contracts, just like I said before, just to ensure compliance. That's very important. ESG contracts is another thing we will discuss maybe some other time. It's a whole big aspect that needs to be discussed independently because it involves special skills of drafting and so on and so forth. Oh, the last thing here, how they intersect, is what we talk about: reputation and responsible governance. Transparency, I said it is key. Ethical dispute resolution strengthens the governance standards. So when we use this ADR, it reflects our institutional maturity. It reflects a compromise. That is to say, whether the investor or the state, they have compromised that strong power of subjecting to lead a more dialogue, a more friendly, a more conversational, a more open platform that parties can express themselves. You can express yourself so freely in litigation. But now that's why ADR mechanisms are the most suitable for ESG. Most suitable. So They are like husband and wife, just the best. And when husband and wife are in good terms, the children are blessed. The children grow so happily and successfully. So by the time ADR is properly incorporated into ESG contracts, I'm telling you, the environment and the community are going to be friends.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful explanation that you just.
So this is just it. Welcome.
I agree. The more, I believe the more we promote ADR through this way or through any other ways, states as well as institutions will realize and get to know more of these, what you just explained now, to include it in the contract, to ensure that they are understood that, okay, we are taking responsibility for any risks that may come out of whatever businesses that we're creating, and show that institutional integrity, like you said. So I think it's a win-win if we all include ADR and follow ADR. I've seen that you've worked extensively in...
It is a win-win. It is a win-win, Bridgette.
Exactly. I see that you've worked extensively in investment law and institutional ADR systems. How do you use ethical dispute resolution contributing to social cohesion, particularly in jurisdictions where disputes may affect communities, natural resources, or governance structures?
Oh, thank you very much for that very interesting question, Bridgette. One thing I would like our viewers to understand is that arbitration, mediation, these ADR mechanisms, they are ethical mechanisms.
Indeed.
These mechanisms, ethics is one of its foundation.
Indeed.
Ethics is at the core, and in arbitration as well as in mediation, we have foundational principles. Okay, so when we talk about ethical dispute resolution here, we are talking about that independence. We are talking about transparency. We are talking about accountability. We are talking about respect for due diligence or due processes. We are talking about that sensitivity to social and human rights impacts. So it goes beyond the legal technicality, which litigation doesn't see. Not like you see it and then you overlook it under the carpet. No, it doesn't see it. But ADR sees it properly and clearly and defines it beyond the technical legalities. Okay? And then it integrates what? There is that fairness principle, there is that integrity that moves around it, and there is the responsibility that comes. Sometimes we will have some exceptional cases, but in most of the cases, or like in 80 of the ESG cases or contracts that involves ESG mechanism or there is that responsibility, there is that compliance, there is that responsibility. But let's go to court. Exactly. Why the community is dying.
Exactly.
Why over the years we keep destroying the land, we keep fighting, there's no peace. Okay. So for me and my understanding in the industry, how ethical ADR contributes to social cohesion. Okay. I'm going to discuss this in let me use the next 1 minute to talk about this in four clear points. Okay. Now, how ethical ADR contributes to social cohesion? Let me tell you. Number one, we talk about what? Legitimacy and trust building. The foundational principles of ADR, and the ethical nature of it builds legitimacy and trust. When disputes are handled transparently, because this deals with persons privately. Exactly. By the time I know Bridgette is a woman of integrity, by the time I know Bridgette knows how to manage her conflict of interest, by the time I know Bridgette is not going to be impartial, then I can rely on you, I can sleep on my bed, and then I can confidently enforce the award that you give me at the end. So this is when you see that transparency, you see that fairness, Okay? Legitimacy. You legitimize these of transparency, fairness, and then, they say justice should be done and not seen as it ought to be done. What the common man or the public stands and watch, what they see and takes out of the courtroom, it's very bad.
True.
So it automatically creates a shift on how they see the judiciary or see litigation, confrontational, injustice. They always say it like that. Okay? And that's why ADR mechanisms have grown so fast in a very short period of time. Okay? It has grown so fast in a very short period of time due to its foundational principles of transparency, fairness, that community, that communion, communions in discussing between parties. We can talk it, we can pour it. I want to cry, I'll cry, get emotional. We know how to manage emotions in mediation, how to break impasses when parties are stuck. Sometimes we go for caucuses and people vomit it, but we don't have these opportunities in litigation. Exactly. You see how these foundational principles have created trust, that rapport, okay, of these mechanisms. And now, legitimacy definitely. Look at the community. Let's say, for example, a community now, how they perceive the outcome gives it that legitimacy. By the time they perceive that there is transparency, there is fairness, that's what now legitimize the outcome of ADR mechanisms. How the parties see it, how the communities perceive it, the intervention, how it prevents the pluralization and of violence of the dispute. That is, but litigation, you will have to go and file an application and file. There's the cost list or charged before the matter is brought up. Maybe they have already killed people through mob or a community fight. Maybe they have already destroyed like over 80% of the environment, polluted the waters. But then we have also what we call the emergency arbitration. That can be appointed to handle emergency issues, to resolve. So they have actually closed, this mechanism have closed the gap that litigation had over the years as our traditional mechanism. So the next de-escalation, okay? Like I've just explained, conflict de-escalation, I've just explained. Ethical mediation creates space for dialogue. I've said this repeatedly. And especially in land. I've seen where people kill people because of land matters. I've cutlass, machetes on people because of land. I've seen all type of bruises because of land matters. Okay, but the best to do here is mediation, not even arbitration, because you can give people the safe spaces to dialogue, to talk, rearrange, resettle. And so the next one is mining. Okay, a lot of people mining disputes, they are just enormous out there. Another one is infrastructure dispute. There are different types of infrastructure, whether it's water, technology, housing, and whatsoever. There are different types of infrastructure, whether under the aviation or whatsoever. So those early interventions, they prevent the polarizing of disputes and violence. Anger. Anger, when people are angry, sometimes some can bring down a house, they can just burn it down.
Indeed.
While waiting for litigation, things aggravate, it paralyzes. But these mechanisms, you see how they integrate this ethics. And now, the next one I'll talk about is inclusion. It is obvious. The process is very, very inclusive. It allows for that inclusiveness of, even if it's the whole community that wants to come, they come and be heard. When stakeholders feel they are represented, you understand that social fragmentation reduces. By the time you bring all disgruntled parties or community to sit down, so there's that inclusion and participation. But the judge in litigation is biased. and is backed by the seal of the state that is on her head or his head. And the last one is preservation of relationship. We all know, I have seen where in court, people will fight even in courts, carrying materials against each other in court. Rarely find this in mediation or arbitration, rarely. So unlike that adversarial litigation, I mean, even between lawyers, counsels do fight in court. Counsels do fight in court. You see a counsel and the other party fighting in court because what they have personal. That's where some lawyers. That's where some lawyers. That's where some lawyers have actually missed it in their practice. You don't personalize parties' disputes or their cases as if it is yours. Go to the extent of fighting with your colleague. That's unethical. Mediation preserves commercial and community relationships, supporting long-term that coexistence rather than the zero-sum outcome. You go to court, if the judge says you are guilty, you are guilty. Exactly. If the judge says you pay the claim or a claim amount in the charge, if the judge says you pay fine, if the judge says you are going to jail, and so be it, as the judge raised the hammer.
Exactly.
It is done. It is done. And everyone says as the court pleases. You have room for appeals, fine. If appeals favor you, know. But with mediation or arbitration, you can especially mediation, you can propose, you can suggest, you can appeal to your other party. Okay, might be because we had to perform and we were expecting some supplies, might be from Dubai, but the ship got a hangover in the middle of the sea, and can you please give us some more time? We agree, we negotiate, and we agree to come. And so at the end of the day, what happens? It preserves our relationships.
Exactly.
Okay? So the other part we'll look at it here, it's now in terms of jurisdictions. Okay, let's look at in terms of jurisdictions affecting natural resources. One here you have, for example, let's say, when we talk about resource-driven conflict, most conflict in the world today, when we are talking about the resource costs, we're talking in development, we talk about the resource costs. We talk about the resource costs, which is causing the global order today, especially in Africa and some of the European countries.
Yes.
Okay. The resource cost is causing the change in the global order today, where African leaders tend to protect their resources. Okay. So arbitration, that transparent arbitration in mining, oil, land dispute prevent grievances from escalating into. But we have failed to use them, and that's why there's a lot of political instability in Africa today. But it's not too late. We can encourage African states or investors and African states to incorporate and ensure the implementation of these mechanisms in their contracts. And then another thing I have experienced is how to balance the investor interest, who is looking for profit, and the community's interest, who are looking for those social benefits or social amenities such as water, electricity, a safe environment, shelter, health, and so on. So how do we create a balance between investor has brought hundreds of thousands of dollars, want to mine or want to drill oil and gas, and then how do we create a balance? Okay. That's why I responsibility and have a lot of contracts responsibility for companies and such that these are all dispute avoidance mechanisms. These are all dispute avoidance mechanisms. When we draft this corporate social responsibility clauses and ensure we follow up as access of these investors and companies, our fellow practitioners, lawyers, counsel, they have to take this seriously, such that investors can comply. these investors can comply. We should not only look about dispute resolution, we should look at dispute avoidance mechanisms. Okay, dispute avoidance mechanisms are also key. We also look at what the enforcing responsible contractual standards. Okay, tribunals can do what they can interpret. They can stabilization clauses. There are stabilization clauses that are into the environmental safeguards and community benefit provision. These must be included in the ESG contracts, those stabilization clauses, those environmental community benefit provision, and then you can enforce this through a corporate social responsibility contract. You can get experts like us to design those corporate social responsibility plates for us, so that they do business smoothly. They'll create a balance between their interests and the interests of the community. And last one, under jurisdiction, protecting intergenerational equity. Making them environmental and social impacts, not merely short-term commercial gains. Most time, investors are profit, investors are good, but community will always be there. For conditions will come and be there. So we also look at that. We also have to protect that intergenerational equity to create that balance between the investor gains and those long-term social impacts, and not just short terms. That's why putting up health centers or hospitals or schools, or putting up bringing electricity to communities, their long-term gains, generation and generations will enjoy them. Once electricity has been brought, the only thing is maintenance. It's there. It's a long-term gain. And then the last one I will talk on that is in terms of governance, which is very key. This is a sensitive context, and it goes country per country. It goes country per country, because this ethical character helps what in strengthening rule of law. Rule of law. I know this is a general concept. This is a general concept. Every country cares about the rule of law. Okay? The governance sensitivity is like you tell ADR institutions, they do predictability or predictable legal systems with stabilized governance structure. Today, before investors go to some countries, especially in Africa, they look at its governance structure. Much they respect the law, compliance with the law. Are there people who abuse the right of investors? All those things are taken into consideration. Okay, and then we also look at reducing political. There are some countries that the politics mixes so well into investments at the disadvantage of the investors, and this is very well defined and shaped my PhD thesis. It is well defined and discussed in my PhD thesis. With time, when I will publish the article.
For the sake of time, I think we can just shorten it, as you have a meeting after this. But if you are interested, I would propose maybe a panel discussion with our founder for the Institute for Dispute of Resolution. Her name is Miss Deepika Saina, Dr. Deepika Saina, sorry. She's also a passionate promoter for ADR. And I think, ma'am, just from the small interaction we have, I believe a panel discussion between you and her, as well as students who would like to join, I think that would be a great idea and a great way to collaborate with you. If you're interested, please let me know, and we can just coordinate so that we can extend this conversation and, get more insights from your side.
That's a yes from me. You can just coordinate that and inform me. I check my schedule. Okay? All right.
All right. I think you've given much good advice. Just so we can wrap it up, if you have anything else to add, I would be happy to give you the floor.
We cannot end this podcast without me saying this about Africa.
Sure.
I'm a Pan-African woman, and I don't hesitate each time I'm given the opportunity to talk about Africa or contribute to Africa's growth or African development. Okay, and in the ADR industry, We have an African Continental Free Trade Agreement, but now how can Africa position itself in the global arbitration landscape?
Exactly.
We have to strengthen our institutions to ensure that our regional hubs are that which are modern. They align with international laws and standards. We should have judicial support. Our enforcement mechanism or enforcement procedures have to be that swift, because how did Paris make itself a safe seat? How did London Court of Arbitration make itself a safe seat?
Exactly.
We have to look at all these things. We have CASICA, that is the Cairo Center for International Arbitration. We have the Nairobi International Arbitration Center. We have the Kigali International Arbitration Center. We have in South Africa now AFSA. We have in Nigeria the London Court of International Arbitration. In Cameroon we have GCAM. But what is happening that these seats are not becoming favorable?
Exactly.
Institutional credibility is key. We have to look at all these arbitration laws, make sure they meet international standards. We have to ensure our judges are trained. We have strong judicial support, that swiftness, that understanding of arbitration, and then the modernity of arbitration, new areas, the new trajectory around arbitrations. Our judges have to update. They have to upskill. That professional case management systems. Today we're talking about technology, and let me tell you, my firm group, we have designed one of the best functional mediation in Africa, not to talk in the world. We launched it on the 11th of December in Kigali, and we have designed a client called the tool track. Very soon I'm going to put these apps outside there. This is to help clients manage their case properly with their service provider, whether lawyers, accountants, bankers, construction engineer, family members. If you're in the diaspora, whether your wife, sister, brother, kids, how to manage. These are just dispute avoidance mechanisms. Has been put in place by AGC Group, our most reliable and cherished firm with quarters in Kigali. Okay, so that swiftness is required, whether we like it or not. Consistency and predictability. Invest rely a lot on that predictability of their investment. It's key. It's key. Political stability, that's a no doubt and no talk. People have to ensure. For I don't know when we lastly heard about a crisis or a war in London or in Paris.
Exactly.
These places are safe. We have to invest in human capital. Women, when we talk about investing in human capital and thought leadership, what we are doing now is thought leadership. More people have to dedicate in thought leadership. And before you dedicate into thought leadership, you must have invested in yourself.
Exactly.
With resources. You must have. To be a thought leader, you must have. To be able to make informations around certain trajectories that are happening in the industry. You have to ensure that we have more women to be trained. We give women the opportunity. More women get trained, more women build competence, build that not just confidence, but competence.
Exactly.
Because arbitration is a matter of competence. Whether mediation is a matter of competence. It's not whether you're a male or female. So we have to build this competence. That human capital is very important. We also have to leverage on the AFCTFA, that's the African Continental Free Trade. Arbitration should be a catalyst under this agreement. Okay? Arbitration should be a catalyst. Because the AFCTA agreements, states have ratified and signed. Now, state and its citizens, either in goods or services, they do cross-border commercial disputes will occur. Are you well informed about the laws in Botswana and the laws in Cameroon or Rwanda? Are you? Investment disagreements will occur. Trade-related regulatory conflicts will occur. Tariff-related conflicts will occur. State to state and investor-state matters. This is where I fall with my doctorate. State to state matters. I'm looking at those rights and obligations and how these dispute mechanisms can help this state to state and investors matters. So this is me just telling you that a lot of opportunities in the aerospace. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement is an area with which I have a lot of expertise on. Maybe we can discuss this with your institute director.
Definitely.
I have enough time to talk about it. Okay. So I really want to thank you, Bridgette, for thinking about me, for profile to be on your 12 series or 12 session of your. I am always available and transform young practitioners in Africa, to transform institutions. And this is me telling you all that. For young African practitioners, the journey has shifted from academic interests to which requires deliberate, determined, and decisive. 3 Ds. Deliberate and decisive steps. It requires technical competence. It requires institutional development, deliberate, determined,
and decisive
steps. It requires technical competence. Yes, it requires institutional involvement, especially on platforms like Young EKYMG, ICC, YAF, African Nation Young Members Group. These intellectual contributions that we make and the discipline around our building, it's very key, it's very important. Some of us have traveled that path and it has helped us. So when these elements align together, the global opportunities are not just as an inevitable reality. So thank you very much for having me on this podcast. Here we come from Awasum Global Consulting Group, a legal services, ADR, and development solution firm with headquarters in Kigali. Much to me.
Thank you so much, Miss Mispa. I am truly energized by the conversation that we just had. It's been very short, but from it alone, I'm bursting with excitement to just explore more, dive more into ADR. And I'm really happy that you gave me the chance to do it. And I'm really looking forward to the mediation app that your group is putting up. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I pray all goes well, and wishing you all the best. And with that, everyone, this is the ending of our session.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
I hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to see you all on the next episode. Thank you.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना।